All right, we're ready.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to today's Economic Development Committee. I apologize for the last two meetings. I know you guys missed us all. So we have a very full meeting today. We have two presentations. So when we get to 2.1, brevity, 3 minutes for your updates. Of course, we want to hear them. They're very important to us, but we've got a big presentations. Okay, so first order of business, I need an approval for the agenda for June 20th, please.
Move to approve it.
Thank you. Second. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Then I also need the approval for the minutes for March 21st, so long ago.
Move to approve the minutes. Second.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Brian. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank
Aye.
you. Thank you, David. And then 1.3 public comment. Miss JJ is going to give us an update on the summer festival. It was her first time running this grand event.
Good afternoon. My name is JJ Duran. I am the vice chair of Scappoose Parks, and I partner with the library and many of our community partners to put on a number of events, including our Earth Day celebration, which for the past years have been really phenomenal. And then, of course, Movies in the Park, which, what is it, the 8th year now? It just feels longer. Anyway, our 8th year of doing our Movies in the Park, which is extremely successful. Once again, because I think Jeff and I do a good job picking movies, but we also do a great job of working with community partners, including the Scappoose Police Department, which have signed on again to serve up our dollar burgers and hot dogs, which is always a big draw for folks in the area, especially with grocery bills being so high. And it's just it's a great opportunity for families to come out, enjoy something for free, have inexpensive food, and really have a lot of fun. But this year was the first year that we did the Scappoose Outdoor Fun Festival. I know that I worked incredibly hard on it. I know that Jeffrey did too, and he may talk about a little bit with the library presentation. But it really was a labor of love, because I think it's really important that we, as a community, begin to really have an identifying idea of who we are. And I really believe that at the end of the day, Scappoose is the gateway to the outdoors. And so creating the Scappoose Outdoor Fun Festival is the only festival of its kind in the state. And actually, Colorado is the only other area that's doing something similar to that. And basically, it's all dedicated to outdoor activities like canoeing, hiking, cycling, bird watching, camping, a lot of really fun family events that are really taking off. Since the pandemic began in 2019, some parks have actually seen a 200% increase in people hiking in the parks. And so there's a lot of enthusiasm, but there also needs to be some education and stewardship for those wild spaces. And so we partnered with the Oregon Department of Forestry, which I had been talking to for 3 years. And this year they came out and we had Smokey the Bear, which was huge. People, I've actually got another great photo I may submit for a contest, but it was just huge. And then, of course, the Scappoose Fire Department, the Scappoose Police Department, the Columbia County Sheriff's Department brought their jet skis talking about boater safety. So we really covered a huge area of things that people are engaged and excited about. We had the Oregon Equestrian Trail, so we had the horses there. Although we didn't have real horses. We actually had a rocking horse that kids could jump up and ride. And then we had our nature kids art show, and we created something called the Creation Station, because some of the kids didn't create until like the day of. And so we had Cynthia Eade, who's a great artist and teacher that oversaw that with some of the other staff from the library. We had a Native American dance right around noontime. It was amazing. And the turnout was really great. So I'm really excited about it. I'm sure Jeff will be excited about it once he's less exhausted. And, it's just, and NJ, we have to say NJ just knocked it out of the park with campfire storytelling. I came up with this idea of like having a campfire storytelling tent And it really, that was actually a lot more work than I thought it was going to be, but it turned out really well. And I think kids really loved it. And it looked like there were a lot of kids there. Yeah. So yeah, it was really, really great. And so I think it was just a really great event that we can build on next year. I would have to, thank Christine for her donation. Brian, thank you so much for your donation and support. I mean, it's events like these that actually help our local businesses extremely well. You can see in St. Helens where they've had, and actually years ago, put on their 4th of July event and did some other things, and that kind of got everything going to the Halloween town they have today. But those kind of events can be real drivers for small business. And that's why it not only is important for Wild Spaces, but it's also important for our businesses in our community because we had, and it was surprising. Somebody came up, and I don't know who, but I think it was Joe Backus. And we actually I figured we'd get a lot of people from Scappoose because it was on the same day as the Rose Festival parade, but we had people from all over the place. We had 500 swag bags total with Western Heating and Cooling doing 200 backpacks and our 300, and those went to families. Those went, it was great. It was really great. We could have used some food carts, and maybe we can talk to the folks at the lodge for our next year on that. But we had our Scappoose sauerkraut sandwich, which was a huge success. They sold out. And we also had a generous donor help fund that so the community club could actually make some real money. But yeah, it was a real joy. It was a lot of work. I was glad to sleep for 12 hours the next day, but I'm glad I'm helping the community.
Okay, thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? So we will go to our partner updates. And first up is Columbia Economic Team. And Paul couldn't be here, but Carl is going to read his statement.
Hello,
3
everybody.
minutes, brother.
Here we go. It's quite a bit going on, but I will do my best to work through it in 3 minutes or less. The Scappoose, Columbia County, and Columbia Commerce Center collectively, that's so helpful.
Alliteration.
My goodness, are among the finalist sites being considered for an advanced aviation manufacturing plant. It's in coordination with the State Economic Development Agency. Yesterday, they hosted a site visit by the international company. Great participation from local leaders. Yeah, they stuck around for a couple hours, and the decision timeline is on about 6 months out. So good. The Cascades Tissue property in Scappoose is under contract for sale, which is good. Some initial conversations with city and utility staff have occurred, but neither the name or the nature of the business is disclosed at this point. And a coordinated effort is underway on Project Arcadia, which is a private investment to purchase and restart the Cascades Tissue plant in St. Helens. This purchase has a LOI with the city, and PSA is under negotiation. And then finally, the purchase of the Armstrong property is progressing towards closure, and a PPA is nearing completion with the DEQ. On the retention and expansion side of things, the BRE initiative is progressing. To date, nearly 60 businesses have been interviewed for the project and the database. So that's going to wrap up soon. I think the 26th is the last day for interviews. So that data is going to be analyzed, and this fall we'll the outcomes and develop a new strategic plan. On the SBDC side, 2 additional part-time small business advisors have been brought on, and we'll expand the benefit. So if you have anybody, local businesses that need some support, reach out. The June Munch and Learn session is on commercial property. That actually happened today. There were over 30 participants there today. In the tourism bucket, 4 local travel Oregon grant recipient projects are underway. An additional investment grant is nearing completion with new Highway 26 Vernonia sign under construction to be installed immediately after being revealed in the Vernonia July 4th parade. It's a collaborative project with the Freewheelers Community Organization and CET, and reflects a new tourism branding. CET is also collaborating with the Country Fair Board with a Country Fair trail on Keep It Local integrated into the mobile app. Similar event trails will be created year-round with interested partners. And finally, the annual membership meeting for the CET is scheduled for Tuesday, July 9th, and the invitations went out today.
Great job. Thank you. For Scapa City Council, Jeanette.
I'm here.
Columbia County, Casey is not here. OMIC is not here. PCC is not here.
Natalie online.
Oh, Natalie.
I am actually. Sorry, I was munching.
Natalie, welcome.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Natalie Phelps. I'm with PCC OMIC. Yeah, I was just gonna share a couple little updates if that's all right. Yeah, so we do have our Columbia Works internship, which is starting here on July 9th. We also have our lunchtime lecture series that are going to be ramping up here as well. Yeah, and then NJ and I had an awesome time doing our CET interviews. So.
Fantastic,
Awesome.
Natalie.
Yeah.
Thank you so
awesome.
very
Thank
much. And our Ms. Nancy Ward for Port of Columbia County.
You ever so much back here.
Grab the mic.
Don't want to miss anything that you have to say.
I know, it's all so important,
Titillating.
but actually it is, because I just came from probably the first time ever the port has hosted a meeting with people, including the governor's office, the regional solutions team from the governor's office, and sorry, let me back here. And this meeting was actually called by the governor's office, the regional solutions team, and they invited congressional officers from Senator Merkley and Senator Wyden, as well as Congresswoman Bonamici. She had representatives there. Business Oregon, we had 2 representatives, DEQ, Department of Land Conservation Development, Department of State Lands, ODOT, and in from Columbia County, Casey Garrett and Paul Vogel. And finally, COPAC was there. This is the first time we've ever had this many people from around the state in one room, focused specifically on the Port of Columbia County. And they left from our meeting at the office, and now they're being given a tour of Port Westward. So it's probably not something that is going to reap benefit tomorrow, but it's really an advantage for us to be able to highlight everything that's going on, not just with the port, but in Columbia County as a whole. And we hope that this is the beginning of something that we will continue to do in the future. And due to time constraints, I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. And hey, with Columbia River PUD.
Hello, I'm Heidi with Columbia River PUD. We have 2 projects that are converting overhead to underground lines to improve our resiliency in the area. One is on Apple Valley Road. That will be completed once we receive some materials for that. And then the end of Dutch Canyon, there's about 7,000 feet of line that will also be converted to underground. It's in the design process. So as soon as the engineering piece of it is completed, we will get started on that. And then we also have some pole inspections happening in the area. It's part of our 10-year pole inspection process.
Fantastic. I was hoping those were going to happen.
They are.
And Jeff.
So JJ pretty much covered the events. We'll be doing obviously Movies in the Park 5 weekends this month or next month. So August, 2 months from now. And right now we're doing summer reading. So in the first 5 days, we had 400 kids and adults sign up for summer reading. And we're doing, since we're the rec center in town also by default, we're doing daily kids activities every day
Nice.
over there.
Fantastic.
That's it.
Thank you. Jay, are you speaking for the city?
So, a week from today, the Planning Commission will review the Columbia Restaurant Complex that we've been talking about for a while. Our staff is recommending approval for that, and that staff report will go out today. We also had an inquiry meeting with some folks at Ness Campbell. They're a crane and rigging service. Their closest place is in Hillsborough right now. They're looking at coming to the property to the east of OMIC R&D. And they're moving really quickly. They plan to submit their pre-application materials next week. So, which is really a small gap between inquiry and pre-app. So they're moving quickly. Natalie from PCC mentioned it earlier, but the Columbia Economic Team is doing a business interview project. So around the county, representatives in economic development are interviewing over 100 businesses. And we're interviewing them to bring the data back and get a sense of what the current business climate is in Columbia County overall, and then what areas improvement is needed. So the interviews are kind of wrapping up now. They're supposed to be done by the end of this month. And then CET will spend most of the summer reviewing all of the data that they got from the interviews and then creating a synthesized report of the common themes that emerged. Then lastly, the city is currently hiring a city manager. We brought 4 applicants in last Wednesday on the 12th to be interviewed, and council is expected to make a decision on that soon.
Ryan Rosenthal. Hey, NJ, we know what the restaurants are?
One of them will be Taco Bell. That one will be on the southeast lot. The others, even the applicant doesn't know right now.
Okay.
But 2 of them are drive-through. One of them is sit down. That's what we know.
Thank you, NJ. Thank you, Brian. I'm going off my agenda. We haven't introduced Judy, so I'm just going to give her for a moment to introduce herself as our newest member.
Hello, all. My name's Judy Eisman. I'm a recent, transplant up to Oregon. I was in Auburn, California. That's in Placer County. And both my husband and I were involved in a lot of our local government. And so I just started here, moved up in March, and thought I'd just dive right in.
Thank you.
So I'm happy to be here and happy to support the community.
Fantastic, Judy. Thank you so much. Okay, so
Real quick question. Okay, sorry. That Ness Campbell, is that offices or is that just a big lay down yard for their equipment?
So it's going to be both. So it's they're doing it in 2 phases. One of them is the first phase is no building for a laydown yard, and then they're going to construct about an 18,000 square foot building. 15 will be for storage and repair of vehicles. 3 will be for offices.
I'm so proud of you. Okay, so moving on to the presentations, and NJ told me that I have to read this entire thing. I have to read it twice too, sorry. Okay, so our first presentation is Shadley's Express Lane Espresso Urban Renewal Grant Application, and it will be Paul, am I gonna say Syracusa? Did I do it right? Okay, so make sure I'm on the right side. The Economic Development Committee will now begin reviewing an application for the Scappoose Urban Renewal Grant Program. Staff has deemed the application before us complete to be reviewed by our committee and the Urban Renewal Agency. This agenda item is strictly to allow the applicant to present their proposal for us to ask questions of the applicant or city staff. Later in the meeting, we will discuss the merits of this application and any others submitted during the same period and ultimately make a formal recommendation to the Urban Renewal Agency. For this agenda item, we are just gathering information. Shadley's Express Lane Espresso has submitted an urban renewal grant request for improvements to the sidewalk and parking lot, as well as an installation of a new commercial driveway at 33455 Northwest Prairie Street. The site currently serves as a drive-through coffee shop. Shadley's Express Lane Espresso is requesting a grant of $37,570.50. The quote provided by the contractor is for $81,641, but $6,500 of that is for engineered plans, which is not reimbursable expense under the grant program guidelines. The applicant has committed to the 1-to-1 matching requirement for the grant program. Before we begin this the applicant's presentation, does anyone on the Economic Development Committee wish to declare a financial, business, or family conflict of interest in the review of this application? Wait for response. Anyone? Anyone? Okay. Has anyone had any communication with the applicant related to this project outside of the Economic Development Committee meeting? No
No.
response. Thank you. Okay, you're up.
To join that table, they have your application in their packet.
So everyone turn to his application, which on page 7, it begins.
My name is Paul Saracusa, and obviously I'm here to see if I can get this grant. If you have questions, I'd be glad to answer.
So you want to just kind of walk us through, just for the record, because not everybody has access to the packet that we do. So like, what are you looking for?
Well, I have photographs in here of the location, where the drive-through is going to be, where the pavement's going to be, the sidewalk, and the new driveway. If anybody can see these pictures, it's in pretty need of help.
Can you talk us through maybe your opinion on how this improves Scappoose as a whole? Best in this.
Just business-wise, accessibility, make it easier to get in there and get out of there. Getting out's not so bad because it's directly on Highway 30. And the state paid for that many years ago when they, I don't know, lopped off the corner. But getting into that place, biggest hindrance is a telephone pole. And I've talked to the PUD and they said, sure, we'll be glad to move it if you pay for it. And I don't think I'm financially able right now to move that telephone pole. We've got an access via the alley. And right now people are just plain driving over the sidewalk because they have a hard time getting in there. That land is not necessarily the stablest land in the world, and that's why the sidewalk has crumbled and shrunk. Also, over the years, they've paved up. I don't know how hard. Well, I guess we want to build it up to code for the sidewalk, but the street has come up so that the sidewalk is not full height. I'm sure you're going to want a uniform building code on that one. No problem. Great. Just accessibility. I wouldn't want to drive my car in there.
So if not, what's the cost of removing the pole? Number one. Number two, if the pole was removed, would that reduce your ask?
Would it reduce what, my ask?
Ask.
Your amount of money you're asking.
When I went down and talked to the PUD, they just said, no, not moving the pole.
Okay.
It's right in the middle of the
Do
sidewalk.
you know the cost of removing the pole? Did
I
you
do
look
not.
into it? Okay.
There was no even guesstimate. When I didn't even realize it was as complicated as it was. I went over there and looked at it a couple months ago and it was like, whoa, this is a big job.
So the question again, if the pole was moved, would that benefit you and potentially reduce the amount of the grant that you're asking for?
No,
Oh, okay. So it has no bearing, the pole.
only in access.
Okay, but that's what we're asking for is greater access.
If we're allowed to build the driveway, the 24-foot driveway, it is just on this side of the pole, which will probably be okay.
Okay. Okay.
May I ask who owns the property? Not the
I do.
business, but you do. Okay.
I had a couple
Um,
questions.
Oh, wait, David's not done.
So just the last time I paid for a power pole to be moved, it cost $2,500 in Portland. That was a few years ago. Columbia River PUD is generally less expensive than in Portland, so it might be about the same, or $3,000 or $3,500. If it has more power on it, it does cost more.
Thank you, David. Brian?
Hi, I'm looking at your new access point. So if I remember correctly, isn't your current access on Prairie Street? And then you'd be moving it, right? To that alleyway.
No, it's still on Prairie Street.
Oh, it is.
The purple line that I have indicated on there is where the new driveway would be.
Okay, so we're moving it from there to there. Okay.
So this question isn't necessarily, well, it's to you. So I see Wallace Construction gave you your bid and they're doing some other, they're on another grant. Did you happen to get another bid or did you just get the one?
I just kept the one. He was recommended to me by the city, and I talked to him, went over it with him, and he certainly seemed competent enough for me.
Any more questions?
Yeah, NJ, I'm just curious, how much do we have in the fund right now?
107,000 is on the last page of your packet.
The, so this request is for repaving the parking lot and a very small section of sidewalk and approach into the alley, and maybe paving the alley as well. Is that correct?
No, that's incorrect.
Okay,
The new entryway is into the parking lot. The alley has nothing to do with it.
okay. On the drawing submitted, it shows that the access would be off the alley. That's the reason that I got there. So you said that the magenta or purple line that you drew was what you're intending the access to be?
Correct.
Okay.
This drawing, let me, I say your comment. This drawing was done many, many years ago. And the arrows do indicate the entrance into it. But as I was saying, over the years, people have just started driving over the sidewalk.
I see. Got it.
Teacher, I have a question. Are you just then proposing removing and replacing the access in on the sidewalk or the entire sidewalk run through?
No, it's not the entire sidewalk. The state did it up to code. I believe it's up to code, around the corner,
Correct.
just around the corner.
But my question is the part between the corner and the new entrance.
No, that's staying the same. That's not being corrected.
I'd like to circle back. So from a overall SCAPU standpoint, how does us investing in this project help the community at large? How will it impact the community at large?
Maybe you could generate more business on the north end of town.
You currently run 7 days a week?
Pardon?
7 days a week you're open?
Yes, I believe I don't own that shop. I mean, I own the building.
Oh, you don't own Chadley's.
No,
You just, oh, I beg your pardon. I thought he was Chadley's. Sorry. Okay,
and I do believe they are open 7 days a week.
okay.
Excuse me. I was going to ask about the business that's on there, and I was going to ask you some questions about what has been, their revenues, occurring. I noticed that, but now you're saying it's just the property that you own, not the actual business on the property.
That's correct.
Okay.
What is the zoning for the property?
What are the what?
What is
No.
the zoning? What is the best and
Zoning
highest use?
commercial.
Commercial,
JD.
okay, thank you.
It's very likely expanded commercial. And it is in the downtown overlay.
Is there any more discussion?
You're going to discuss them all once we get done with all the presentations.
Yeah, I think she's just asking if there's any other questions. You discuss the merits of the application later.
Okay.
I'm good.
Paul, thank you so much for your presentation. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your consideration.
And our next is the Lodge food carts. And we have to read this form. Okay, here we go. Hi, Nick. The Economic Development Committee will now begin reviewing an application for the Scappoose Urban Renewal Grant Program. Staff has deemed the application before us complete to be reviewed by our committee and the Urban Renewal Agency. This agenda item is strictly to allow the applicant to present the proposal and for us to ask questions of the applicant and cities or city staff. Later in the meeting, we will discuss the merits of the application and any others submitted during the same period and ultimately make a formal recommendation to the Urban Renewal Agency for the agenda item. We are just gathering information. CCPOD LLC has submitted an urban renewal grant request for an enhancements to the outdoor atmosphere at the Lodge food carts at 51875 Southwest Old Port Road, including outdoor speaker system, heating, fire pits, retractable walls, and a stage. The property currently hosts 11 food carts and an indoor tap house. CCPOD LLC is requesting a grant of $48,208.34. Since their quoted total is $96,416.68, the applicant has committed to the 1-to-1 matching requirement of the grant program. Before we begin the applicant's presentation, does anyone on the Economic Development Committee wish to declare a financial business, or I hate that word, I'm so sorry, family
Familial.
conflict of an interest in their review of this application?
I'm not on the committee, but I did want to mention on the record, just for transparency, I do work for the Lodge. Because of that, as soon as I gained employment through them, I had Lori do all the processing of this application. So I would just be here to answer any questions about the grant process in general, not the Lodge's application.
Thank you, NJ. Does anybody else have an interest? Let's see, has anyone had any communications with the applicant related to this project outside of the Economic Development Committee meetings? So we will begin. Nick Hilliman.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'll just kind of walk through. I mean, everyone's seen the Lodge so far probably and has an idea where it's at and all that. You know, we've gotten this far. We started this process one other time, and now we're back, and now that kind of the rules have refined a bit, and it makes a lot of sense, right? And so what our big goal is, I'm gonna piggyback on JJ's stuff a little bit. We're an outdoor community, right? And where are you gonna go hang out when you're done with your outdoor activities 7 days a week? You're gonna go to the Lodge, have food, have a drink afterwards. So, we're looking at ways now that we kind of got to the finish line, open and serving customers. What other things can we do to increase the use of it as our season extends, right? We get to fall and things like that. We have heaters and things on there too. And frankly, when we originally talked, we got to the end and, everything costs more, right? So these are the things that got chopped for now. These are the things that we think can really help, promote a really cool environment for, outdoor, people to hang out and families and enjoy different foods and things. And then, add the music piece, on the regular, and some of those things, and just heating and then the shades when it's sunny even, helps shade some of the covered area and things like that. So it was a lot of those things just to make the comfort and outdoor comfort better, to just increase our season, make it more, to handle the capacity too, right? I mean, right now we've struggled, a bit with capacity even, right? And so just makes the outdoor seating and things better, and so yeah, as we head into the fall, that's kind of the goal, is to be able to get some of these things done before it gets cold out.
Didn't see anything, and the only sadly I've been out of town for 2 months, so I haven't been to your pod. However, my daughter does work there. The parking seems to be an issue. Is there anything? I don't see anything to address that in here, so I was just asking that question.
So far what we've done, I mean, we've definitely talked with planning and Lori, and what we've done so far is we submitted an application, or we have now a temporary permit to park on our back lots. So we're going to be, Saturday's our grand opening, so anybody should come out and have a good time. We're going to encourage with that permit people to park in our backfield that is our property. So we'll have auxiliary parking for summer months when it's busier and dry and, and that. That's a one-time thing right now as we look at our longer term solutions and see how the excitement, it's really exciting. It's a new place in a small town, right? So when that dies down a little bit, how much parking requirement will we need?
Did they allot two spots per cart?
That's what the code, has.
Question. So do you own land behind the existing parking lot currently?
Yeah, there's two more lots. So if you drove through the parking lot, there's two more lots. One's kind of a weird L thing and then a weird.
As you're entering your parking lot, it's basically double channel parking, right? You own directly behind that where the parking lot could be extended further back?
Yes, it does. And behind where the carts are and there's like a little paver green space and the covered area straight back from that. So the way the lot is, it just extends the whole lot.
It's not paved.
What's that?
It's not paved.
That's not paved. No, that's just grass.
So you have a curb stop on the back of your parking lot. Are you planning on removing that?
With the plan we came up with our temporary permit is that we're just putting a temporary ramp. So
Okay,
that-
over the
and
top
so
of
a
that?
cover for that for now, yeah.
The grant doesn't
It
for
doesn't
anything for parking.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just throw this out there. When I looked at the design of this property, 11 carts, just with employees, you would eat up almost your entire parking lot. And so I've eaten there several times. I think it's great. What I'd really like to see is a grant application to improve your parking situation because it's spilling out onto the streets. I understand that, there's always excitement when things start, but if you just crunch the math, Poorhouse alone should probably have 15 parking spaces just from the practical sense. I'm not talking about code right now. And so if you take that and you take the employees for everything, your parking lot's exhausted. So you don't have enough room for parking. That's going to be an ongoing problem. I can't imagine. It's also going to hurt your business because people have already talked and said, I've heard people say, well, I don't want to go there. Parking's too hard. So I think, in my opinion, I don't know how the rest of you all feel. I feel like the parking is creating a potential safety issue because people are having to cram in wherever they can find parking out on the streets. If you've got land back there, what I'd really like to see is an application to improve your parking situation because that has a public benefit to get those cars back off the street into your parking. It'll also help your business because people will not go because of the parking situation, especially in the winter. Once the weather changes, people aren't going to want to walk a block and a half, 2 blocks in the rain. So, I mean, I'll just throw that out there, but I don't know how the rest of you all feel.
I think additionally, I mean, even if it's not this round, I think fill out another form for sure.
NJ, what are the codes for parking in this situation? Do you know?
Yeah, so it's one stall per food cart.
Yeah, I realize.
And then plus that is 18 for the tap house, so 29. And then they applied for a minor variance, which the code allows for, to get it down to 26. And there's street improvements allowed for 2 additional on-street parking spots.
So if they would expand the parking in back, my question is, does that have to be paved? Can it be a rock lot?
It would have to be paved, even if it's not required parking, like anything for passenger vehicles has to be paved. Okay.
Okay, but let's not talk about parking because this is what's in front of us.
Yeah.
Thank you for humoring us. We did want it on the record, however. Okay, so you want outdoor sound, want shades. What else? There's a list. Fire pits, retractable walls. Retractable walls?
Yeah, for the outdoor covered area that's in the back section, there's, they make these like retractable walls that go up and down. There's pictures in the back.
Like shades?
Um,
It's Jeff. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Oh. They like, I mean, just, it can be shade or it could be a little bit of wind protection. It could be, rain. So you could still sit out there even if it's raining and warm, or like that. Well, plus all the fire pits and the heaters.
So I don't think I have to ask the question, how will this benefit the economic community? Because we've seen what it's done. I mean, we thank you for doing it. It was a huge, huge endeavor and we needed this so very, very much. So thank you. It's been very successful. Everybody I know is talking about how great it is. I've never been.
But you will, right?
I've been busy. I've gone
You're out of town.
months. Any questions?
I have a question. I haven't looked at the list, but I think that temporary portable things are not, it's supposed to be a permanent fixture of the property. And so I'm wondering how many of these things actually will be bolted down, not subject to theft, not able to be carted off to another business at some future point. And the speakers, the portable stage, for example, is not going to be set up continuously. I would imagine it's going to be coming and going. That was my primary thing, but then I started thinking about the other things as well.
Yeah, that's a fair question. I mean, the speaker systems will be mounted in like that outdoor covering. And so some of the speaker stuff will definitely be there. The stage stuff would, I mean, yeah, that'll be more of a seasonal thing for outside. So that it would be, I wouldn't say it's like lockdown, but it'll definitely be there, probably 3 months at a time, right? Or whatever. And then the fire pits, of course, all that stuff is locked down. Same with the retractable blind things. Those are bolted on. I mean, some of the specific, there's some of the specific music equipment that would be like that. Of course, we're never going to leave that out, right? So we have storage for that. It would be stored on site, but yeah, it's not bolted down. There's not really internally. Some of that may stay bolted down in the corner when we do some indoor music, but that's separate anyway. That's not even part of this.
So the portable stage, David, just from what I see is $6,000.
Right.
Yeah, I was just bringing it to everyone's attention that it's not an espresso machine, but it is portable like an espresso machine.
If I could add something, in Auburn, we had something similar. It didn't have the food trucks, but it was something similar. It had food, beer, local wine, and it had music and events, and it had the same type of portability with the screens, because sometimes it's wet. And so it screened the top for us. Otherwise, it was open air. It had umbrellas. It also had a portable stage that was used for just certain events.
Yeah.
Something similar, and it was attended all year round. So it was great. You could go out there and watch a football game during the winter or in the summer. We were protected because we would get triple digits.
Yeah, right.
Protected by the sun as well, and so you could your family out, play board games.
Judy, you've not survived a winter in Skippers yet. It's wet. It's wet for 9 months. No, it's gonna be so great. It's so good. Okay, so
I've got questions.
Ryan,
And one other question. I seen, no, never mind.
that's Wallace, that's for Shadley.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jeff has a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nick, there's a lot of figures floating around on this application. Do you know what the total amount is of all of these bids?
Yeah, it's totaled up. I apologize. We were kind of submitting as we were getting the last quotes and things. We were submitting things. The total like all these parts are 96,000. It's on the application.
It is.
Second page of the application page.
Okay, so that's what that figure is.
And so we don't have to, and I'd clarified this previously, we don't have to if somebody was nervous about the $6,000, we would just could easily subtract the $6,000 out and grant the rest of the amount if there was a question about the portability of the stage.
Yeah.
For example.
How about, so question is, you have a functioning business now, right? And so this is for the investment for, call it, more attractions, more usability, things like that. Do you have any quantification of the impact either to your business or really to the community at large here on what these specific upgrades are going to do? Like, what's the difference between doing nothing and putting this in? Is that quantifiable at all? Have you done any studies?
Well, I mean, we haven't studied it, but I think, I'll provide commentary, I guess, but it's definitely full on all those busy nights, right? For sure. So the indoor seating is already full. So, I think especially with like the traffic concerns and things like that, it's like, well, how do we alleviate that before? We're trying to be ahead of that, right? So if we have more outdoor seating and it's, deep into the fall when it's still warm out or even raining a little bit, that's not that big a deal to sit outside, right? But it's, and if it's comfortable, but we're trying, we definitely, on any of the busy days or lunchtime, right? You go there and all tables are full almost, it's hard to find a space, right? So yeah, it's trying to avoid that in the winter when people are bored and they want to get out of the house a little bit. It's a Jeff line, but I think our Jeff, but it's trying to be the extended living room, right? Or, maybe that back patio area for you. So, yeah.
And
Right. Hard to tell.
What about the live music side? Is there from a planning perspective, is the idea, is that a weekly thing? Is it out of town bands? Like, what's the vision for the music side of things?
Surprisingly, we have quite a bit of music here. Georgia Sunbart is going to play on Saturday for the grand opening. But and the other band is local as well in Scappoose. So the vision right now, and I've, applied for all the licensing and for I don't know if everybody knows that, but there's like the recording artists, the BMI and the other places you pay them and then they pay the artists for the use of live music that's cover bands and stuff. And so, we just paid that fee today actually, but, so, we'll have regular open mics. We've done open mics at our St. Helens, but much smaller food cart pod on Friday nights. And so once a week we'll have an open mic, let the local artists come out and kind of try their hand at it, which is pretty fun. See Nick embarrass himself. You can do that there. And then, yeah, just supporting some of the local bands and stuff. So another night that probably would support, having actual live music band, right? And then we're gonna do the karaoke league is also gonna host there as well. So I forget, Tuesday or Wednesday night, they're going to be showcasing a little bit of it on Saturday as well, but then they'll kick off their season in July and they have a league that they run for that and you can join. And we even know someone who made it to nationals from Columbia County, the karaoke league. I didn't even know this was a thing, but.
Yeah, so that's the part of what I'm interested in hearing. So you actually have this program in place at St. Helens. How much is that activity attracting people even from outside of that community where you're getting people from other towns, counties in to be part of the live music that's going on?
It's been interesting. So we've done it for 3 years, I think, in St. Helens. And our food cart pod, if people know, it's behind the bowling alley there. And it's not nearly as cool as its big brother now, or whatever. But yeah, we've drawn very regular crowds there to where we're filling all that seating and being able to, I have a friend that comes out from Portland. We don't see a lot of that, all the way to St. Helens, I would say. But I think here we have a pretty good opportunity where people might come over the hill and things like that to play. But we have, we've had people come from out of town and play. And then in all those cases, usually they bring their families and things like that to support them. And it's a pretty neat thing. But yeah, no, it's helped. Those nights when you think of, that property, we can go back to St. Helens, not relevant here, but it's, that's made that a hangout on a Saturday, Friday night in St. Helens, right? That was just the street beside the bowling alley, right? And now there's some live music going and people hanging out and having a beer or wine with it and having dinner. So, yeah.
cornhole.
We have cornhole here. We don't have cornhole there. There's no space over there.
Who's there?
Huh?
Bowling alley?
They do it sometimes.
Okay.
But here Saturday we're having a cornhole tournament. The cornhole I don't know if we're gonna have the cornhole league. We don't have enough space for the, we don't have enough space for the cornhole league. Really, they want to set up like 9 of them across, so we're like, don't know how to pull that off. But they're gonna do tournaments on the regular
Okay.
too.
That
So
attracts a lot of people. It's a
I like
big
that one.
cornhole circuit.
Yeah.
we
Huge.
gotta get better at
Huge.
it.
Question, outdoor patio area, does it currently exist? 'Cause I don't really remember it there, other than the
Yeah, so there's a covered
big
separate,
the big covered thing, right?
Yeah.
Is this part of the area that you want to enclose? Is that what you're talking about?
yeah, that would be where those,
Okay, oh, so you want to, so that's where you want to put walls around the big patio area?
Attractive.
well, it'd be just retractable, yeah.
Okay.
Why, I mean, they're just,
That sun is a killer.
Yeah, the reason why I was asking is I was looking at this picture here.
oh yeah. I was just trying to find some
Okay, this is
illustrative,
ju-
like,
This is just to show that concept. I was like, I remember that being there.
I know, NJ said, hey, could you have somebody like sketch up some stuff? I'm thinking, no, we've already paid those guys a lot of money. We could probably just have some pictures.
Okay. Okay, that was confusing me. Thank you.
I have a question.
David?
Let's see. So kind of cued by something that you said, do we know what the maximum decibel allowed in that area is, where we're not going to?
Not off the top of my head. I do know that the temp use permit that Lori issued include that any live music can't go past it.
Yeah.
But I don't know the number off the top of my head, but their permit covers that.
Okay, so they already have a permit that allows that?
Yeah, Lori issued a temp use permit yesterday.
Okay.
And that temp use permit is for the additional parking in the yard next to it, not for the food cart pod. That was approved a while ago.
Okay, but
And there is
what about-
ordinance about that. I know, like Lori has explained some of the like sound ordinance stuff with us too. I mean, I think it's not clear whether it's 9 or 10 o'clock in the code. So in the temp use, I asked for 10 o'clock for the event. But I think, yeah, there's an overall city level ordinance for that purpose.
Okay.
We would
So
plan to
you said
follow
that,
that, I guess.
so
go ahead.
temporary is how temporary? It's 1 day, 1 week?
90 days. So their grand opening on the 22nd through September 20th.
Okay. And there, when you said that you had not applied, was that, let's see, were you referring to a permanent application?
What do you mean hasn't applied?
Oh, I was just repeating something that Nick said. So he said that he hadn't applied yet. And so I thought to myself, well, why are we considering sound equipment if it may or may not happen? But it sounds like
Oh.
it's temporary for 90 days. So is there a plan to move forward with a permanent stage, permanent something? And I'm
David, if I
wondering
could
what that looks
clarify,
like.
the temporary use permit is just for the additional parking. The site development, the utilities, the food cart pods, the business licenses, that approval is already done and it is permanent.
He's worried
Correct.
more about the sound.
Yeah, you said.
level.
This
Oh, I
Right,
see,
right.
sure.
Is that also temporary?
Well-
Temporary?
Well, the noise ordinance it's forever, you know. And that's whether you have a permit or not. If you're just making noise somewhere, even if you don't have a permit, you have to abide by that. So that's
there's-
forever.
So there's no special permit that needs to be secured to have an event, as long as you're under the decibel requirement.
Okay, I see what you're saying now. So a lot of cities do have that. We only have we call it a special events permit, but really it's for anything that's occurring on city property. So either in a park or in a street that someone wants to close. So a lot of like people have block parties like on 4th of July and apply for a special event permit because it's in the public right of way. This is on private property that they own as a business. And we don't have a
Okay.
permit for that kind of thing.
Okay. I understand. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, sorry I got mixed up.
Last thing.
Of course,
Um,
we have time. We're doing great
Oh,
because
I'll
the
talk
partners made it. We're
slow
so brief.
and
No, we still have a lot. No.
Just for me in my head, it's like two separate things. It's the heating and enclosure and the music stuff. Do you have a rough? Please don't try to do a calculation. Like what percentage of the ask is 2 buckets?
Oh, I would say it's probably like 80%, just super rough, 80% on the improvement, fire pits, retractable stuff, because that's the stuff that takes a lot more installation cost, you know, and then I would say the music stuff was probably like 20 of it or so, I would say. So yeah, it's probably pretty close, 80%.
Feels right. Thank you.
Yeah.
We good with this one?
Good.
Paul Fitterich, I saw you raised your hand a couple times. Did you?
Oh, hi guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I just want to say, first of all, great job with the lodge. I think all of us though in the committee have to remember that one, there's a lot of hype going on because they've just opened. So I mean, we're kind of being excited about how busy it is, whatever. But it seems like the owners are doing what they can due diligence wise to make sure that they're going to continue as a business going into the cold winter months. And secondarily, they're creating an atmosphere that we don't have here in Scappoose. I mean, we don't have a place with fire pits that we can go outside. And so I think from a community aspect as well as economic development, it just seems to make a lot of sense. So as far as the music wise too, it's the same thing, is that we really have not a lot of options here in Scappoose. And it seems that adding this again will be giving back to community. I just want to say thanks, guys. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul. If we're done with this one, I'm going to remind everybody, the third item that we have, we heard it in March.
Talking about
I think we're
power?
done with,
Okay.
we're done with Nick. I just want to,
Oh, one other thing too, I would add to, I know because of the other discussion, you know, the last time we were in and stuff, I mean, just from a recovery standpoint, how tourist stuff, or, you know, how urban renewal stuff works. I mean, we like to plead the case too, that we're a good recovery, right? Because our property taxes are going to be very high, right? So we're going to pay it back quick too. So yeah, just want to mention that part.
Reminder. Thank you.
Christine, what were you asking about?
so I was just going to remind the committee what the first application that we received for Casey and Byron Keller. We
Yes.
all took a field trip across the street for that sidewalk improvement. They're asking for $5,500.
I missed that meeting, but when it first came up, I took a look at that site during rain because I had some concerns.
Very
And
exciting.
I may have missed the answer to this question, but there is no stormwater on that corner. At least there wasn't a couple months ago. And if we put a curb and gutter on that side, there's already ponding, unless it's changed in the last couple of months where the city's done something which I'm not aware of. You generally don't put curb and sidewalk if you have no way to deal with the stormwater. I did not see any stormwater facility over there do anything. So where's that water going?
That's a Chris question. Unfortunately, he's on vacation, so he couldn't make it to this meeting, but we will go through all of that when we.
If we granted the grant request, could we do a contingent on there being remedy to stormwater?
That'd be
Is it-
fine, yeah.
So, because right now, it was ponding. So if they don't have a solution, we're going to make that ponding situation worse. And basically, you're not going to be able to cross that corner without wading through water.
I see no reason why you couldn't do that. I will say that all grants have to conform to the codes and public works design standards, so that will be reviewed. But I
Okay.
see no reason why you can't, and I think it's a good idea to condition it.
Yeah, because I mean, they put that sidewalk in front of Century Tel.
That's the other way.
No, but that same sidewalk's part of it. Waters were flowing that direction.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Down to that corner, and they didn't put stormwater in there. So that water's all flowing to that corner.
Hmm.
So something's got to give, or we're going to make things worse, not better.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so we do have to discuss this, but I also want to be mindful of Mr. Sykes. He is 2.5 and he has a time constraint. So I would like to put 2.5 in before the discussion, just for courtesy, Mr. Sykes. Mr. Sykes.
Free to grab another microphone, Brandon, if you both want.
Well, first of all, I just want to say congratulations on your discussion on the urban renewal. I can remember when we created the urban renewal district, it took us, what, about 2.5 years?
So long.
But the most important thing is, I think, just listening to your discussion, it kind of reflects why that was such an important tool for the city. And it's recently you've been able, with Larry's leadership, you've been able to help defray the cost of the reservoir on the hill and some of the treatment facility upgrade costs. You've been able to defray that. And that's really what it was aimed to do, is to try and use that resource so that we didn't have to raise rates across everyone and to make sure that growth kind of helped pay for those improvements. So anyway, I just want to say good job on that. And like you guys are doing great things with the urban renewal district. Sad thing is this is the second, well, actually the third urban renewal district that I've been part of. And the last two I've helped create them. And then I get to talk to the city managers that, you know, it takes a few years for them to accumulate capital. And I always, seems like I've always left before I've been able to spend it. So, but anyway, sound like you got some really good projects here. I think the reason why the committee wanted to listen to our presentation was because we came to the city council meeting, I think about 3 months ago, to talk about the fact that Columbia County has a real challenge in the fact that we have limited transmission capacity for power. We've had a lot of companies that have knocked on our door, but we only have about 35, 40 megawatts of power. And the reason that issue came to a head was there was a Chinese company that was going to build solar panels that was looking at the Cascades building and at the Boise property. And they were going to create a lot of jobs, but their use would have basically meant we didn't have any power for any new utilities or any new businesses. So that project, we just wanted everybody to know what the consequence of that was. And I think it caused some concern, particularly here in Scappoose. Joe Weston and Ed Freeman were saying, you mean we've invested $60 million and now we don't have any power? That doesn't make sense. And so anyway, that company went by the wayside. In the meantime, we have projects like Project Spice that we met with yesterday. They look really viable. We have the power to meet them, even though we're still going to have to make some improvements. But really, Brandon, who is my assistant general manager, and I really wanted to talk to you about what our situation is here in the Columbia County area and how we're going to address it. But for the most part, a lot of people don't know where, they just flip the switch and power comes on, and they don't really think, where's that power come from? But in our case, we're real fortunate because we get all of our power from Bonneville. There's 31 dams on the Columbia River that are either operated by the Corps of Engineers or the Bureau of Rec, that Bonneville markets their power. And that's been a great thing for us because Bonneville is required to sell us power at cost. And so that's one of the reasons why our rates are, besides the fact that we're really efficient, one of the other reasons that we're cheaper is because we're able to buy cheap hydropower. And thing that's really changing though in the Northwest is that we've seen a lot of legislation pass in Salem and in Olympia that has required utilities to pursue other energy sources besides fossil fuel like natural gas and coal and oil. And so basically what we've seen happen in the Northwest is a lot of those utilities that we've always been able to get power from, they're closing down. In Centralia, there was a coal plant that just closed down. It was producing about 1,000 megawatts power a day. And so basically the big challenge has been to try and find alternative power, particularly green power, wind, solar, and then batteries to try and replace it. And it's been a real challenge. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about a lot of the data centers that have been coming to, particularly the Dow's and under the upper gorge. And, they use incredible amounts of power and they're willing to pay for it. And so basically there's, you take the fact that we're taking some fossil fuel generating facilities offline. Then we have all this demand from electrification of homes and cars, and the fact that you have these data centers that are really taking a lot of power. The landscape for energy is really changing, and one of the things that makes it even more frightening for us is the fact that the cleanest energy that we have is hydro, and you've probably heard the news about proposals that have come out of Washington D.C. to take out the lower Snake River dams. There's 4 of them, and basically 15% of the power that we get in Columbia County comes from those dams. And so, if you get rid of those, how do you replace it? And so that's really been one of our big challenges. The other thing that's been a real challenge for us that we're facing is in Columbia County, we get all our power from Bonneville. We depend on their transmission line and PGE's transmission line. Those lines really have a limited capacity. And anyway, I'm going to let Brandon talk a little bit about those transmission lines and give you more detail. So anyway.
All right, so I'll take it from here. So there's 2 PG and BPA are transmission providers that serve our service territory. And on the east side of the highway, that line that runs on West Lane Road is owned by PGE. And then on the west side of the highway, kind of back up in the hills a little bit, that transmission line is owned by BPA. So one thing that is apparent is that a lot of our industrial area is basically surrounded by PGE's transmission system. And so both of those parties work together to serve our area. And the limitations of those 2 transmission lines together is roughly gives us headroom of about 35 megawatts. And to put that into perspective, our system, so everybody we serve, we're a winter peaking utility, and we peak at about 104 megawatts. And so that's roughly 30% from a peaking perspective. But on an average, we typically run about 60 megawatts. So that's about half of our average that we typically operate at. So it's still a pretty good amount of power. However, with electrification, data centers, we've seen requests up to a couple hundred megawatts of power just in our service territory of additional requests. And currently we're in the process of studying somewhere around 140 megawatts of request in our service territory alone. And as you can see, we only have 35. So we submit line and load interconnect requests to our transmission provider, which is BPA. And depending on where those loads interconnect at, either BPA will study it or PGE. And so with those line and load interconnect requests we have out there, which there are 4 of them, it will give us good insight on localized issues on what can be done to add additional capacity to serve areas like the East Airport or even some of our industrial land that we have in St. Helens. So those are kind of some of the things that we've done in our general area. Now I will add from a regional perspective, because there's a lot at play, especially with electrification. And so BPA, which is our transmission provider, which owns roughly 80% of the transmission lines in the Northwest. And so they also get inundated with a ton of power requests. And so for the year of 2023, they did a study of about 15 gigawatts. So that's, we're typically at 55. So added 1,000 to that is the request, which is massive. And to put that into perspective, all of BPA's 131 preference utilities, which were a preference, they serve 7,500 megawatts or 7.5 gigawatts. So they've been studying basically double the amount of requests at which they serve. So there's a huge demand out there for electrification, which can ultimately impact, how we get our transmission and serve other customers. And so with that said, we've been actively seeking solutions from BPA on how we can get additional transmission, not only just for us, but also regionally in the Portland area. Any questions on any of that?
Bonnyville they have 30,000 employees and they have a transmission department. They really didn't even know where Columbia County was 7, 8 months ago, but we've been knocking on their doors. And our message is, without more transmission capacity, we're going to be really hampered in our ability to grow our community. I mean, we've invested millions to develop these industrial parks. And one company like the solar company would have taken all that power. It used to be that 35 megawatts of power was a lot of power, but again, in this day and age of electrification and artificial intelligence, it's really not a lot of power. So our top priority at Columbia River is to try and make sure that we are able to bring more power to this area. And it's not an easy task because of the fact that it's a Bonnyville owned line and also a PG owned line. And that PG only owns, they have very little territory here. They have the Boise property. They don't have a lot of incentive to upgrade that line. Bonnyville has a requirement. We're a preferred customer. So we have a very good relationship with them. And it's really critical that we're successful. And so at some point in the future, we might be asking this committee to help us make sure that our legislators, our Congress folks understand that our future ability to grow and create new jobs, which is really the key value of this committee. You know, without more power, we're going to be really kind of stymied. So we'll be looking for letters of support at some point. But we felt like it was important just to kind of give you that overview. I know it's a lot of information all at once, but I think you're going to see that power is going to be probably one of the biggest issues that we face in the Northwest. It used to be that you could just depend on on Bonnyville to meet all your needs, but days are changing.
Thank you, Michael. Larry has a question.
Yeah, Mike, could you put in perspective, how much power does the whole community of Scappoose use? And then you had a data center, it's a typical data center, how much do they use? Just so we have an idea of usage.
Yeah, I'll answer that question. So on a typical day, like a winter, so Scappoose probably peaks at about 20 megawatts. You know, typically during the summertime, you're probably about 10, 15 megawatts. So not a ton. Now, data centers over the last, I'm going to talk about last 30 years. So 30 years ago, they would come in and ask for requests for power, and they were asking for about 5 to 10 megawatts. And then jump another 15 years, and now their requests for a data center 15 years later was about 50 megawatts. The request today for a data center is 100 megawatts. And so to put that into perspective, that would be, they could plop that on like a 50-acre parcel, which would be where that Cascade Tissue building is on a West Lane Road. So they can take a request for 100 megawatts and stick it on that size of land. So their request for power is just enormous. I don't know if any of you have ever used your phone to create those AI generated photos, but the power to do that when you make that request is the equivalent of running a home. And so, and people are doing that for free, you know. So there's a huge need for that for power. So that's why you see that drive.
So our total average load's 55 megawatts and a data center is 100 by itself. We got 20,000 customers, 10 fairly large businesses. So kind of a new world, and but we're on top of it, and appreciate you listening to what we have to say.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there a place like on the website I can go to that has all of these statistics? I am not a numbers person. I'm trying to write them down and make notes. And it's
Sure.
like this. So if I could something to visualize and see it, I would go to it.
Yeah, we don't have anything like that published.
Hang out with.
Did you have a PowerPoint for your council presentation?
We do, and we can get that to you.
Okay.
Be helpful.
Yeah, we're glad to come back if you have questions, or you can call us. We're for people's utility district.
These are just random questions that have popped into my head. So like, what did Cascade Tissue here ask for? And like how compared that to the Chinese solar company? What was the difference? Not one, two, and then did we not know before 6 to 7 months ago that we were going to run into a power wall?
I would say we generally knew that we had about 35 megawatts of capacity. You know, that's not,
Before we did the expansion.
it came out after that.
Okay.
Well, US Gypsum down in Rainier, 5 megawatts, Bright Lines 2 or 3, I think
Cascade Tissues was 1.5.
1.5.
Oh, okay.
So
What was the Chinese solar company asked?
They originally came in and wanted 135.
Oh, that's a lot.
So, you know,
That's abnormal.
right.
I'm sure data center,
It's,
mini solar
the
or
thing is, right, the thing is becoming more.
Okay.
Because everything is being driven by electricity and they want clean energy. You know, they're steering away from heating sources of natural gas. You know, they're driving this direction. You know, companies are automating, right? They're having less people, but more power consumption. So it's becoming more and more common to get higher power requests.
There are ways so that in the future that local businesses and population don't end up having a massive increase in their power bills to pay for increased capacity. That this increased capacity cost could be transferred to these businesses that may want exceptional amounts of power. It may prevent some of those from locating here. I don't think it's really fair for somebody to come in, use 7 times the power of city of Scappoose, and then the rest city of Scap, all the people and businesses of Scappoose see their power bill double.
glad you asked that.
We currently do that. We're a cost cause or cost payer, so we do pass those costs
You
on.
would be able to pass those on. It wouldn't just get
Well,
absorbed into everybody's.
It's kind of like Google up in the Dalles. They paid for all the improvements and that's what we expect because, you know, we think it's not fair to the rest of the folks.
It's good to hear.
We've had that practice for a long time.
Yep. Hi, Nancy.
Great, thanks. So my question is, how do we stop power companies from creating winners and losers? I mean, if the solar company had gone into St. Helens, then every other community in Columbia County would have been a loser.
Well, the challenge we have, Nancy, is that if data center walks in the door tomorrow, we have a statutory requirement to serve them, whoever it is. That's so it's really up to the property owners to determine if they want to sell them the property. If so, then we're required. That's why you see a lot of data centers were in the Hillsborough area. PG was required to serve them. Is that?
That's true. And I will add one thing is, you know, as a power company, we never say no. We just say how much and how long it's going to take us to serve you. And, you know, it's on the person who's growing to say, yes, it's worth it to do. As unfortunate as that sounds.
Okay. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Any more questions before I'm going to make a motion to extend our meeting so we can chat? Or someone else is going to make a motion. I'm going to ask for it.
Any last questions? Thank you for your time. It's good to see you all.
Thank you very much. Asking for a motion, Marty.
Move the extend, I was gonna say 15 minutes.
Okay.
Second.
1, 2, any more discussion? So we're asking for, we've asked, we've motioned, we've seconded, we've discussed, we want 15 minutes.
Gonna do vote.
Thank you. Oh, we did.
Aye.
David, Paul, are
Aye.
you okay with the discussion? So let's do first. So the question of Byron, is it Keller?
It is.
Casey and Byron Keller, they're asking for $5,500. Brian has suggested that we do, and if we do choose that there's an exception to require some stormwater management.
Yeah, it's verbiage that the money is contingent on stormwater management being available at that corner.
Yeah.
Columbia and what was that? Third. Yeah, Third. Columbia and Third. I actually think it's a good project, so I would make a motion to go ahead and accept it, full fund.
Christine, if I could make a suggestion, I would recommend talking through all of them so you know how much money you have in the
Okay.
pot. And then make one motion for the three. You would say, I move to allocate this much to this business, this much, to, you know.
Okay,
That
but,
way you know, you're not like, oh, we ran out of money because we approved these first two.
right, I get it.
Yeah.
But I think that we have to discuss each one independently and then make the motion.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, all right.
A
So,
question on that one, please. So that's for the sidewalk, correct?
Yeah.
So, and this is for NJ. So how does our street fund work with regards to the gas tax? Because don't we already have, or shouldn't we already have a funding mechanism for sidewalks?
We do, but it's not set up to, it's only, I think you can get $1,000 from that. And so it could be a recommendation that we say for your, for your matching fund, but urban renewal can get them a lot further.
But what are the restrictions on the gas tax money? Do you know?
There aren't many. You apply for it, and if you meet the requirements, you can get $1,000.
That's the maximum?
Yes.
Thank you.
so Shadley's, are we moving on?
Hey, just one
Okay.
more quick question. So would this project qualify for that $1,000?
It would.
Okay. You could deduct 1,000 from the, can't get the other 1,000.
Well, you could recommend that they, that for their matching, they use it. Because you can use any other source like cash or other grants for the matching. But if the project costs 11,000, they're eligible for 5,500.
Done with?
So they may already be counting that 1,000 and have applied for it.
Maybe I'm not aware that they've applied, but it wouldn't go through my department.
Can we make that suggestion also, that stormwater needs to make sure that we have a remedy for that, and please ask for the $1,000 grant?
I'd be hesitant to condition them to apply for a program that they may or, I'm just not as familiar with the sidewalk program. So I'd just make it a recommendation and make the other a condition.
Okay. Are we done with this one? Any more, gentlemen? Okay, so my thoughts on Shadley's is very similar to Casey and Byron's ask, in that they're asking for a sidewalk improvement. And I think that the cost of repaving their property and the things that they talked about were not necessarily fall under the urban renewal program as far as resurfacing their entire driveway. I do think, obviously, if we're helping Casey and Byron with their sidewalk, that wouldn't be fair, I hate to say that word.
I want to point out too that it's not an entire sidewalk replacement. It's just for the entryway, and that entire sidewalk is at or below street level.
Actually, if you look at the quote more carefully, I believe that it's 180 linear feet. He has, so the person who prepared the quote basically wrote it up for the entire lot, I think, because doing a street view, it only appeared that it was maybe 40 feet or 50 feet at most, not 180.
I'm looking at the right thing. I see 900 feet of sidewalk, and that cost is $4,500.
900 divided by 5 foot wide sidewalk is 180 linear feet.
Oh, listen to you.
Okay.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, but David, that's just the quote. It sounded like the owner was not going to go forward with the entire length. And if you do look at the street map or the street view, that sidewalk's in quite disarray. So the city did the corner, and then there seems to be quite a, maybe 30 feet, 40 feet of disarray. And then if they do start it over, that'll be at the driveway part. So it'll be kind of discontiguous. If that's what the owner said that's what he was planning to do.
True, except that the ask and the documentation is showing us an inflated number based on total wholesale replacement of everything.
Yeah, I would definitely want, and I don't know if we can ask for that. I would like to see other bids because I feel this Wallace Construction's been on a couple of different projects for the city. I can't imagine that the city is actually making recommendations on contractors. Seems not.
No,
No.
yeah, I don't think so either. There was one other thing that I wanted
provided
to,
a couple available, but people a lot of times like to go local.
Okay, David.
sorry, I feel like I've been talking too much, but there was also a bring to your attention on that same quote. It says civil engineer if necessary. So
They did take
that's
that 6,500 out.
right. And there's a surveyor if necessary.
Yep.
So this is something that probably needs to be resubmitted, I would say, with more accurate numbers. And so it sound sorry, I'm really grasping trying to remember the approval criteria, but I think that they should be wanting to move forward with this regardless of whether we help them or not, but this one is almost like if we do this, we're going to be funding most of it, even at the 50% mark.
One thing I will say too is that in the urban renewal grant guidelines, we have to get receipts for all this stuff that's completed. And so if, let's just say these are inflated quotes, we would only reimburse up to half of what's actually been paid for. And we wouldn't do more, but we would do less.
I'm more comfortable just saying with the sidewalk and entryway portion of this
Me too.
request than asphalt. There are a bazillion asphalt parking lots in the city, including mine, and I couldn't imagine asking the government to pay for my paving.
General maintenance, right?
Yeah, it's general maintenance. It's not an improvement for the benefit of the city.
Right.
It's a benefit of that owner. I'm okay with the sidewalk and entry portion of this. But I would like the sidewalk done and complete because do it in part, I think would not really give us the benefit that we're looking for. Just my thoughts.
So if we do approve it at a lesser dollar amount, calculate a number.
Well, the numbers I'm looking at is removal and demo of existing sidewalk, 4,500. Now, keep in mind, this is all based on the larger square feet of sidewalk, so that shouldn't be included in that. The 6,500 for install city driveway, the 15,000 for sidewalks per ADA. Traffic control would be 3,500, and then you'd have to decide if you wanted to include the surveying, and those would be the numbers you would include, and then we would talk about funding it potentially at 50%.
So if city requires traffic controller, please include this pricing. Do we require traffic control?
Yes.
Well,
So doesn't it already exist?
No. I'm saying if city requires survey,
Oh, no, I thought you said if city requires traffic
No,
control, the $3,500 amount.
that's a hard cost.
Okay.
Yeah. So would the city require a survey, or do you know?
I'm not sure of that one. I
Okay.
just know we do require traffic control for right of way.
So I mean, we could take all that and add it up. It's 10, 25, 29.
You could also make a
30,
general,
33.5 or something like that,
yeah,
3,500.
roughly.
So half of that,
Half of that.
16,000.
Yeah, somewhere in that ballpark.
Okay. You
What do you
remaining
think?
too? Well, you both are? Okay.
Okay, we'll talk about the last.
No, I think let's finish this one, 16,000.
Well,
That
it's
is-
more than 15, but.
Yeah, we're talking about half.
Yeah, I
total
know.
Cost, and it'd be a little over that. But that would be on the contingency that they replace the entire sidewalk, not that
Yeah.
they do a partial sidewalk.
entire on their frontage.
the square footage that's mentioned in this quote. 900 square feet.
So we can't condition them to do sidewalk improvements that aren't in front of their property.
No, it would be everything in front up to 900
Okay.
feet.
Yeah.
Sure, got it.
Yeah. In other words, we don't want to give them the money and get 400 square feet of sidewalk.
And
I
again,
think
I go back to what are they actually going to spend on it? So it feels like the recommendation is half of sidewalk repair cost,
Right. And the entry.
right?
Part of the sidewalk.
Which we believe is up to $16,000. But that once
17.
there's an actual proposal and receipts, that's what would actually be dispersed.
We put a cap on our end.
And we would make the
Over budget.
recommendation that they apply for the $1,000 sidewalk grant.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Just the recommendation.
Of course.
I think that it's very easy to massage numbers to later to meet. Anyway, I still would suggest that they resubmit with the corrected proposal.
That is
I think so too. I think there's too many if city requires, it's very vague. So it's difficult to not like try to dwindle it down and give them a better actual number. But I think without a secondary bid outside of Wallace Construction, I don't know that we're going to get an accurate estimate.
But again, we only reimburse what we get in a paid receipt. So there's nothing like we don't just write them a check for half of what they quote. We do it for what's actually been paid for.
Within the guidelines.
And Dave,
Exactly.
I
If
can
you
create an invoice. I can create an invoice for you right now for the whole thing.
I know, that was what I thought too.
Oh. I'm okay going either direction, whatever the group.
And do we think that this is for the greater good of the community? We think that? Because we asked that question a couple of times.
That's where I think the sidewalk
Yeah.
improves overall visual aesthetic along the highway there. But
Yeah, it increases the visual appearance of that area. It also,
It's a
not
safety
public
issue.
right of way. It's a safety issue. It's also, you could say it has benefits to the surrounding businesses
Okay.
because they have now better access to their property. So it's a community.
I would also like to say something about the people that are driving over the sidewalk. I mean, it's public, it's public property. They need to be, customers can't drive over the sidewalk and the business can't allow people to drive over the sidewalk.
I mean, I must have driven over it 100 times myself. It looks like it's a driveway.
It looks like a driveway.
It does. It does.
He's right,
I
it's
didn't even realize there was an entrance on the alley. I've never actually gotten coffee there, but just driving by it, it looks like it's the entrance. Wouldn't know unless somebody,
Maybe needs some striping, some painting needs to be.
like an
required.
arrow.
Okay, so think about that as we talk about the lodge.
Okay.
So the lodge. So I think David had a very good point about the permanent structure. So I would suggest that of their ask, which I'm getting to the last page to get the actual dollar amount, we just subtract, they're asking for 48,000, that we would just subtract out that one temporary thing. I mean, I do think it's nice and, BART would be elevated 2 more feet off the ground, but
There's actually 2 temporary things in there.
Is it the stage and the speaker?
Not to be the killer, but the stage and the PA associated with it are both portable.
okay.
But if you look at the
$1 for
bids, they
that.
have carrying bags and stuff.
Without me having to go through 37,000 pages, what's the dollar?
Let me find the page. It's the bids from, okay, the first page, which is a bid from Sweetwater, 497183. And the stage, where is this?
6,500 for the stage.
Yeah,
Rural PA, $1,900. $1,899.
So,
well, the hanging speakers, the other bid from Sweetwater, that's a mix. A lot of that's gonna be hardwired in. But some of it's not.
yeah. I mean, I definitely think that this is so good for our community, and I do believe that the further investment will definitely help carry this business through our wet winter.
Yeah.
Because
Christine.
honestly, when
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm a little delayed. Keep going.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I think it's absolutely a benefit and it'll help this business and help our community have the options that we now currently have for eating establishments into our winter months. Because if you think about now, before the food pod existed, I'm like, I'm not going to go to the food pod and stand in the rain, but now we have an option. So this would be something that we could do 12 months out of the year. I agree with all of these things, except for the temporary thing, if that's against our criteria.
So I have a question on the sort of quote unquote temporary thing. It sounds like they want to have the adaptability that use that space for cornhole or other things at other times. So I mean, it would probably be not as beneficial to have a stage that they built physically and just have it sit empty for 99% of the time. So we're kind of, saying, oh, we're not going to fund that because it's not bolted to the ground. But at the same time, it's probably making the best use of their space so they could be adaptive to other events, other things that are going on, whatever. So I disagree with taking that off the list.
It's listed though as an ineligible expense.
It's ineligible, it's ineligible.
Yeah, it's not about whether,
Not-
the
Not
merits
being
of
mean
it.
to them, it's,
Wait, is it eligible because it's not bolted down?
that's what it
It's in,
says.
so the way, and I'm going off of memory here, but I think it's like items for business use that,
Not a
that
permanent-
could be taken to another site.
So I gotta say, I do have a hard stop here. We're at the 15 minutes. So
You
I,
have to go.
yeah, I really do.
Okay, so
I gotta go too, so let's try to wrap this up. What do you want to do, Chris?
Here's a motion. Can I make a motion?
maybe, what if it doesn't agree with?
All right, well,
Okay,
what are you
we
gonna
have to talk about it.
say?
Okay, all three of them, you're gonna do them?
Oh, you're gonna do them.
We're gonna do it individually, I would think.
Okay.
Have to do individually.
He told us that.
No,
we
we
could
should.
do it.
No, they need to be.
So, the motion is to recommend to the council the following urban renewal grants, 5,500 for the Kellers. We said we're going to go forward with 1,600,
16,000.
16,000, excuse me, for Shadley's with the stipulated criteria that it's, just for the sidewalk. And then, and the
Entrance.
driveway, and then, we didn't do the math, but reducing the 48,000, to probably like,
35.
no.
No?
No, because you're only reducing half of those two things.
Oh, half of those two things.
Yeah, to whatever it is without the movable things.
I'll do that.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
NJ. You're amazing.
Okay, so, do we want to discuss?
Wanted on the corner to include that they resolve the stormwater.
Oh, yes.
Okay. That's the
Yeah,
caveat.
that, NJ.
Any other discussion? Judy, how do you feel about
Is
this?
there a second?
Oh, sorry.
Mhm.
Thank you, Judy. Now, how do you feel about it? Because we're to discussion.
Discussion's over.
I was concerned about the sidewalks. Sidewalks for both. I wasn't aware of what's not included in the grant being brand new here,
Hmm.
but if an item included because of its description. I do feel the same way that it's temporary, but it's really portable. And I understand about portability.
Okay, so do we have a dollar amount? Did you give us that?
No, I'll have to do the math later.
How do we
Your
make?
descriptions can be the motion though.
Okay,
Can I,
so,
I'd like to interject just that usually an application is complete and correct, and we're voting yes or no. And now we're trying to take a bone knife to several things, and I think it should just be resubmitted. When it's accurate, we can say yes or no.
I think because this committee can make that recommendation based off of the information and we can go back to that criteria, I think that we can make the recommendation to council.
Yeah, because council could still do whatever they want.
Yeah, council, we're
Yeah.
just we're just the sounding board, but I don't think it takes so long. And I think that this is the whole point that the Economic Development Committee review these applications so we can service our customers, citizens, and allow a council or the urban renewal agency to take the information that we've gathered and the discussion and make the decision. Just making a recommendation.
Move the applicants for
Here's
the grant to go ahead. Meet their application. So they have,
Oh, yeah.
the council will have the right information.
They'd have to come back to this group again, and that's like 4 months later. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think that probably when you present it to council with their recommendation, you can, this is what they suggest to eliminate,
Exactly, yeah.
correct? Okay. Does everybody feel good about it? Do we have a vote? She was number 2. She's second. So we have first, we have second, we have a vote for our recommendations. Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
David? Paul?
Aye.
See
See you later, guys.
We're good. Congratulations. You made it. So many times you had to dog and pony for us, and look, it worked.
Just like seeing us.
You adjourn the meeting.
Oh, wait, I have, our next
thank-
meeting is, thanks,
I was-
Judy, you're like a champion. The next meeting, July 18th, 2024 at 12 o'clock, August 15th, September 19th. And don't forget to go to the Scappoose Farmers Market. And we're adjourned. Thank you. Look at that. This is a big meeting.